Clemson's depth chart is shaping up, and Kade Klubnik made a franchise QB move. We'll talk about it right here on Locked on Clemson.
You are Locked on Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Morgan Thomas here, Clemson fan, Clemson grad, host and producer of Locked on Clemson, part-time host and producer over on 105.5 FM The Roar. Thank you so much for making Locked on Clemson your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. And if you're new to the show, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you never miss an episode. You know how we do it here on Locked on. Exclusive Clemson content Monday through Friday every single week. And don't forget to follow me in between episodes over on X at the Morgan T Show, where we can talk about all things Clemson whenever you want. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Kade Klubnik is not just lifting weights this offseason. If you've seen on social media, he flew his wide receivers, his starting wide receivers, TJ Moore, Bryant, Wesco, and Antonio Williams to California to work with him and work with specifically Jordan Palmer, a guy who you probably know trains NFL stars. He's worked with Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. He's been said to be one of the best quarterback minds in the country. And not only did Kade Klubnik go to pay him a visit and get some off-season training with him, but the Clemson quarterback took his top receivers with him, Bryant Wesco, Antonio Williams, TJ Moore, to a private camp to work on their craft. And this, to me, is a huge leadership step forward for Kade Klubnik in an era of NIL, in an era of all about me, all about making my money and moving on to the NFL and, doing what I can do for myself. Kade does something that not only is going to improve himself, but he doesn't act selfishly in that decision. He takes his wide receivers with him. And to me, since arriving at Clemson, he's always been a guy that you could trust to make those big time leadership moves. He hasn't always been the one that makes the best move on the field. Sometimes he makes mistakes and we get on him about that. But I'll be honest with you, when it comes to being a leader of young men out there, this is a great move forward for 2025. And I look forward to what he can do this season. I've already hyped it up enough all off season about how much I think this team is going to fit really well together, not just with Kade and the wide receivers, but with the offensive line that you have protecting them. This team is ready to win championships. The wide receivers are bought in and they're following Kade, and they have a relationship that is building that we haven't seen. I was extremely disappointed in the past when we heard about a certain quarterback throwing to team managers after a game. You shouldn't be out there practicing with the team managers. You should be out there practicing with your other players. They should want to be out there with you. Kade is showing that he has that leadership level in him, that he's brought along his wide receivers, and they trust him and want to be around him as well. And by the looks of it, from the pictures on social media, on Instagram, that they enjoyed their time in California. Big time move from the quarterback to help Clemson move forward, not just to win an ACC championship, but to win a national championship. You cannot wait around for fall camp or for the coaches to tell you what to do. This is becoming semi-professional, if it wasn't already for many years without us really labeling it that. And I love this about Kade Klubnik because he didn't just mark his calendar for fall camp and just kind of, take off all off season. He hit the ground running. He is putting together sessions and showing what he can do as a leader. And it's going to come back when he gets on campus again. Now he's focusing on his craft with his wide receivers. And a lot of people have told me over the years, why are they doing this? quarterbacks of back in the day didn't do this. And that's not true. Like I said, we've had Joe Burrow and other quarterbacks that have gone to guys like this, have tried to work on their craft in the offseason. And it's just going to get more relevant and common as we keep going, as we get into this, as I mentioned, semi-professional type of world where you can't just rely on your college football coach or college position coach to get you to the level you need to make it to the NFL or to win national championships. You have to go out and supplement and add to your craft and kind of not just build it up for yourself. How I also used to get frustrated where DJU we were told, okay, he, after a bad game, he'd go out there and he'd do reps with a manager. No, I don't want to see that at all. I want to see what Cade is doing, that kind of style where you're going out with your wide receivers, the people you actually are throwing to, and you're continuing to build and work on your craft. It's not a wait for the fall or wait for next season approach that Kade Klubnik is taking. This is a calculated step forward for him to understand how to win national championships, to understand what he can do to get better. And really, it shows just a ton of maturity from Kade Klubnik because he's not settling for just the bare minimum. He went out and brought his 3 top wide receivers in to be kind of the backbone, if you will, of the passing attack in 2025. And this is a huge investment in what Clemson can do to stretch defenses, to attack multiple areas of the field, and to turn routes and play calls on paper into 6 points. When everybody is working together on the same page, you can really exploit mismatches and put defensive coordinators on their heels all night. I think the biggest concern or maybe question you might have is where's Garrett Riley in all this? And that's kind of why I say that's why you get back to fall camp. It's not all about doing this. If they just stopped doing this and that was it, that wouldn't be complete. But you go in the offseason, you continue to work on your craft, you bring along the guys that that are going to help you get to the next level, and not only at the college level, but also to the NFL. And then when you get back and together as a team, then you can put it all together. And that's where this will really show and shine for sure, because you definitely need Garrett Riley and his play calling in the mix. You can't just be, have a bland, stale, predictable play calling because that's going to just sputter and choke up, even if you have some of the better talent. Now, a lot of times talent can mask some of the bad play calls, and that may be the case as well here with Clemson. But I do feel like that it'll all work together. You think about guys like Joe Burrow and the kind of players he had at LSU, like Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. They're turning even some of the most simple concepts into electrifying touchdowns in a flow that just seemed unstoppable. You remember it with Trevor Lawrence in his era when he had T. Higgins, and just how it seemed like everything almost worked so much that it was boring that it worked every time. And I think Clemson has the tools to get right back to that level of just offense working together and hitting on all cylinders. A quarterback who can trust the playmakers around him and trust his play caller, can extend plays, can make up even if something's broken, and the chemistry can not just, get you out of a bad play call, but it can really kind of rise you to the next occasion, because not everything is going to be perfectly written up. As you know, to make it to the national championship, there's going to have to be some just what they call football plays, right? Dynasties are built on, having this kind of preparation, but also when you get to the point where preparation meets the opportunity, that's when these football plays just happen. And so it'll be exciting to see what these guys can do together, because every big time offense in college football has had the quarterback and the guys around him that trust each other and just, are constantly working together no matter what. And to see these guys out there, it looks like they're having a ton of fun on social media. To see these guys out there working together, mediocrity and just being the average and just doing the bare minimum is not acceptable for Cade. It's not acceptable for him as a leader. It's not acceptable for the wide receivers that are with him either. And I think when you look at it's going to help that core group of 3 guys, but it will definitely trickle into your second string guys, like your Tristan Smith, like your Tyler Browns, like your Cole Turners. Those guys also have a certain level of talent that you want to see out on the field and see what they can do. And if you rotate the 2 together, you're going to have a breather here and there, and it's not going to be too bad of a fall off because of this. Obviously, you have your true starters out there, the guys you want to see out there more often than not. But Clemson, to me, has an extremely well-rounded offense this season going into it. And it all starts to that offensive line. There's a ton of consistency there. Cade now in his contract year, he's going to be able to show off on what he can do. And he's doing the right things in the offseason, bringing in his playmakers around him. And fans ask, like, well, is it Cade doing everything, or is it the Frisbee catching dogs? And to be honest with you, I don't care who is doing what. Honestly, both of them are awesome. That argument would be great. Hey, who is better, Cade or the wide receivers? Because they're both great. I'll take it, and I'll take that all day, every day, and twice on Saturday, right? You want to have guys around you that can make you look better, for sure. Make you look like you're a first-round draft pick. That's great. And I think Clemson has the talented guys around to make Cade look really good. But I also feel like Cade can make the wide receivers look good too. TJ Moore can get open. Bryant Wesco can get open. Antonio Williams can get open. You know that. We know that. But Kade Klubnik can hit you in stride too. And he can test the limits of a defense with his confidence and his legs. So they can really put you off balance, keep the defensive coordinators on their back heel, and can be very dangerous, I think, and push this team forward. Now, we talked about this all off season. Cade needs his marquee win. Can he get that win? But not so much Cade also as Garrett Riley needs a marquee win to show that, hey, he belongs as well. Can they put it all together? I think they're doing the right things in the offseason to be able to do that for sure. Hey, we're going to continue the discussion. I want to take a quick look on this episode for segment 2 and talk about the depth on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, see who maybe is going to stick around and who are for sure starters for Clemson in 2025, and maybe where some of the bigger battles are as well. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. As a Clemson fan, you know I love electric moments like Kade Klubnik passing a touchdown in Death Valley, hopefully against many teams this season coming up. But the NBA playoffs, I'm telling you, they are bringing that same kind of fire and excitement. You've got guys like Jalen Brunson over there with the Knicks getting ready to try to push his team to the championship game. It's just like a quarterback trying to steal the show as well. You can look at his trends over on FanDuel's app and try to find where he can have a hot streak, and you can combine his player bets with some of the same game parlays that they have, and it can really help you win big as well. Head over to FanDuel. If you're new, it's the perfect time to sign up. Go over there, FanDuel.com, and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. I don't believe that the depth chart is settled at all. Clemson's fall camp is going to be an all-out war for a few key spots out there. And, as the spring is done, as we get into the summer, we get into the fall, there's a little bit of a wait and see on a couple of positions. I think for the most part, though, the offense looks pretty set. You can tell that TJ Moore, Bryant Wesco, and Antonio Williams, as we mentioned in segment 1, are going to be your top 3 wide receivers. Throw in some Cole Turner, throw in some Tyler Brown, Tristan Smith. Honestly, you feel pretty good about that rotation of the 2 deep right there. And if you had to bring out all 3 at once to put in Cole Turner, Tristan Smith, and Tyler Brown, you're not hurting too much in that area. Now, obviously, the other guys are the true number 1s, but those backup guys are in there and can rotate and can keep you healthy and fresh throughout an entire grueling football season. Then you have your quarterback in Cade Klubnik. No really concern there outside of any kind of injury. He's going to be your number one quarterback. And then tight end is kind of a guessing game right now. You don't know if it's going to be Josh Sapp, Olsen Pat Henry, Christian Bentancur, or even miraculously Ian Shefflin, depending on how well he can do starting out. So there's some still question marks on tight end. Who's going to start and lead the way at the beginning of the season? And then at offensive line, you have Tristan Lee, Harris Sewell, Ryan Linthicum, Walker Parks, and Blake Miller. Those guys seem to be the ones that we've thought about from the very beginning. Who can enter in and possibly get into the rotation from that group? Can it be Colin Sadler? Can it be Ronan O'Connell? Maybe even Braden Jacobs, the true freshman? Be definitely a big-time wild card there for sure. The offensive line, the offense in general has a lot of veterans, and the closer you look, that seems like it's a pretty good idea that most of the starting lineup is in pretty solid going into the summer. Running back wise, that's one we've constantly talked about throughout the offseason. I think Adam Randall is my number one starting the season, and then slowly creeps into a number two, and maybe Gideon Davidson. But I would not be shocked if David Eziomume is a true guy who could maybe even start as a number one or rotate in as a running back number one. I don't want you to forget about him. He had a great spring. He feels like a lot of the fan base has kind of overlooked him a little bit. Me personally, I think that's what he thinks. I'm kind of projecting on him in that case. But some of his posts are like, kind of wait and see. Don't forget about me kind of vibe is what I'm getting from him. So I do feel like that he's someone who could potentially improve the offense and maybe even be a true leader and get into that starting rotation earlier rather than later. And as the season goes on, my assumption would be that Gideon Davidson would come in. So the offense seems very solid at the top. Outside of that, after that, with the backup offensive line, maybe you could look at Elijah Thurman, who is coming back from injury. I was going to assume that he would be the guy that would take over as a starting position, but you don't really know how well he has recovered from his injury of last season. Colin Sadler is a guy who's got a ton of opportunities, and I think he'll get back in the mix once he is healthy. Mason Wade's a guy we hear a lot about. Chapman Pendergrass. Don't hear a ton about Dietrich Pennington, to be honest with you, but he's still on the roster. So I'm not really sure where that's coming from. Ian Reed as well, Easton Ware, a lot of guys in the mix to get into the rotation. You just don't know who's going to get their opportunities and how often they're going to get it. To me, though, this season is really solid for the offense as a whole. The biggest wild card for me, I'd probably say, would be Braden Jacobs. We've heard a ton about him, but he is a true freshman, has a huge frame, very physical. And if he learns quickly, maybe he's someone who could get an opportunity, mid-season. I don't know. I mean, it's very hard as an offensive lineman to break into the mix for sure. I really feel more like your true freshman that's going to get the biggest opportunity is going to be Gideon Davidson. To me, he eventually grows into a guy who could lead the running back room. And if there's an injury or just some fumbleitis, whatever it may be, Davidson may be thrown out there earlier rather than later. And wide receiver depth behind the top three, I feel good about too. Tyler Brown has great upside if he can stay healthy. Juju Preston, maybe he could even get some opportunities. Cole Turner as well. We've already know what he can do as far as beating guys deep and kind of confusing guys who take him for granted. I think that Clemson's offense and their depth chart looks really good going into the offseason and going into fall camp. As long as everyone stays healthy, I don't think there's a lot of question marks there. And it seems that it's definitely formed up pretty well. The biggest battles for me look to be maybe left guard or maybe running back. Outside of that, I think most of the rest of the players are fighting for second string or an opportunity maybe during the season if something doesn't work out the way that we've seen it this offseason. So pretty exciting and encouraging for Clemson to be able to see how they're doing and to know that they have a ton of guys to count on. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, the funny thing is that's one of the reasons why I really love this team overall, to get into the playoffs, to go deep and possibly even go to the national championship game, is because of the depth and the solidification, if you will, of the starting lineup. TJ Parker, Peter Woods, Devontae Capehart, will help adding in there. No controversy there. Sammy Brown, Wade Woodaz, no controversy there. Avion Terrell, Ashton Hampton and Khalil Barnes. Those are some other guys. And then Ricardo Jones and Kylan Griffin. That's the biggest question mark for me, is the safeties. How are they going to fit in? Are they going to rise to the occasion, or are they going to struggle because they're getting pushed into a starting role that they may be not ready for? Coming up next, we're going to talk about one guy that I didn't mention on the roster, and that is Jeadyn Lukus. And where does he fit in this depth chart going into fall camp? Jeadyn Lukus was supposed to be the next great Clemson cornerback and a five-star guy, local guy. Unfortunately, right now, most people have moved on from him, and he doesn't seem to even be on a list of expected starters going into 2025. Ashton Hampton is now listed as the cornerback for the right side, or, opposite of Avion Terrell. Brandon Strozier is up there. And then you have Jeadyn Lukus as a backup now. Kind of a big question mark about where is Jeadyn Lukus going to shake out. The spring depth chart to me shows that it's not an assumption anymore that Hampton is really getting in some more reps and being more consistent, being more physical. And he's got a lot of the fan base behind him as well. But that doesn't mean that you count Jeadyn Lukus out at all. I know the biggest deal really for me, a lot of people may not know this, but he's dealt with a ton of shoulder injuries and had kind of the injury bug for a while now. So a lot of people say, well, he's just not a step too fat. He's a step behind. He's struggling to win one-on-ones, looks lost sometimes. And I would say not so fast. He hasn't played fully healthy in quite some time. And he still has an opportunity to come back and show what he can do. This guy has fought through many things. He's now one of the more veteran guys on the roster. And I don't think he's going to want to sit around and be overlooked at all. This could be a big-time contract year for him to get into the NFL if he plays properly and he shows his talent. He needs to first get through the summer, stay healthy, not focus on what snaps he doesn't get, but really focus on the snaps that he will get, because he needs to dominate the opportunities that he has. He's losing some of the trajectory that once maybe had him as one of the better cornerbacks in the ACC. Some thought that maybe he would be a future NFL draft pick. Right now, being a backup to a guy younger than you is not something that we all expected, for sure. Hampton's rise is not a knock against Lukus either. Ashton Hampton has done really well to win one-on-ones, to tackle well, communicate with his defender teammates. And the defensive coordinator, Tom Allen, sings his praises for sure. Lukus needs to just get back to what we know he can do and his talent level. His footwork, his base, go back to the basics and just really focus on what his strengths are and minimize his weaknesses. Being more disciplined going into the fall and being healthy, to me, is going to be a big deal for Jeadyn Lukus. I personally don't think we should count him out. I don't think he needs to force anything. And maybe he starts out rotational at the beginning of the season. But I do feel like as the season continues to go on, and even in the fall camp, he has a lot of opportunity to fight for more playing time. And you know that with the way that Tom Allen runs his defense, he typically prefers that 4-2-5. So you're going to have 5 coverage players out there or secondary out there. Now, typically you'd have 2 safeties, 2 cornerbacks, and a nickel. And I don't know if Jeadyn Lukus can play in any of those other positions, but maybe he gives it a shot. Maybe the outside cornerback is not a place where he can find any footing, find any success. Maybe he needs to kind of reevaluate where he can help the team the most and get more playing time. Possibly he could go somewhere else as far as like position goes and maybe have some success. But again, it goes back to don't force it. The group is pretty strong, at least from the starting lineup, and the backups too. They're just guys that need opportunity. Lukus at this point was a guy that you wanted to see kind of be a solid starter that was no question. Unfortunately, right now, there is a lot of questions with him and how he'll come back and how confident he'll be, how consistent he'll be. It is definitely, for me, a contract year when I talk about him. He's got to come out and show what he can do. It's do or die, make it, break it, separate the contenders from the pretenders. And he knows that, I'm sure, because he doesn't have a lot of time left at Clemson, and he needs to be able to get back to the level that we expected from him. Clemson has done a really good job over the years building great defensive backfields. And unfortunately, with the talent that they bring in from Mike Reed and even Mickey Kahn, you're going to get passed up if your production falls off, and you're going to get passed up if the injury bug hits you. And I'm sure that Tom Allen can't afford to kind of wait around either for Jeadyn Lukus to get back to what we think he can do. He has all the tools, but right now, I think you go with a combo of Terrell and Hampton, and then work Lukus back in where he can have opportunities. He has a few months to get healthy as possible before he hits fall camp, and has basically 1 month to prove that he's back to being in that contention of deserving and earning a starting spot on this defense. A lot of fans want to see him be successful because he's put blood, sweat, and tears in so many years now at Clemson. And you don't want to see anybody kind of fall off towards the end of their career. So a lot of fans are looking to see what he can do, and myself included in that. But you have limited amount of time left. There's no time for excuses. The younger guys are hungry, and they're ready for their opportunities as well. I had a couple of questions from the fan mailbag over on social media, over on X. One of the questions was, how good do I think Kade Klubnik will really be in 2025? And I think that he's going to continue to be better. We see Jordan Palmer and what he's doing there. We see that he's the cohesiveness that you have with those wide receivers. Is it that the wide receivers are just going to make him look good? Honestly, I don't care. I don't care if it's all wide receivers making him look good or if it's Cade making his wide receivers look good. Either way, the team looks good. And so it's a win-win for me. Doesn't matter who's doing what. But you have to have both in that scenario. You have to have somebody to throw the ball and somebody to catch the ball. And I think when you look at this roster and the combination, there's no need to nitpick either one of those because they have both. Clemson can be great because of the talent that they have. The wide receivers are going to be able to give him open windows and good routes, and Cade's accuracy and confidence and playmaking ability is going to be able to hit these wide receivers in stride for some big plays. This, to me, is an offensive system on the rise that is not focused on one person having to do everything anymore. It is a team collective opportunity, and Garrett Riley's going to be able to really show us, along with Kade Klubnik, what he can do, what they can do. Another mailbag question that I got was, is it a bad thing that Gideon Davidson is what most people think is running back number one? Is it just kind of a hodgepodge running back group? Am I worried about the running back group at all? And honestly, I'm not worried about the running back group at all. I do think that this is a very strong group of guys that bring a little bit different something a little bit different to the table for each person. My biggest concern with the running back group is not that the players that are in that group, it's just the rotation. In 2024, we saw a huge lack of rotation between this group, between the players, and I don't want to see that again. I would rather see a little bit more of a committee opportunity until someone sticks out as the number one guy, the top dog, for sure. All right, hey, I appreciate the questions. Thank you so much for being a part of the show again here on Tuesday. We're going to continue discussing all things Clemson football as we go throughout the offseason. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Hey, and thank you for making Locked On Clemson your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the Portal Show. Bryant Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.